Welcome back to Tales from the PowerAge. How you doing, guys? You good?
Yeah, hi guys.
Yeah, all good, mate.
So welcome to our latest instalment, which is live albums from the 70s, special, no less. And if you haven't watched this before, you'll be glad to know we curate 12 of the best albums or live albums from the 70s, and we are going to give you our top 5 live albums from that period. So I hope you enjoy our chat and our list. If you disagree, put that in the chat. Tell us what you think, like, comment, etc. But before you do that, we'd really appreciate it if you gave us a sub. It's free. So as I've said before, you'd probably be silly not to. We'd really appreciate you getting involved. And we're really looking forward to going through this. Now, just to explain a little bit how it works, we pick 3 albums each, and we've all picked 3 super live albums from the 70s. And my word, there was a lot to choose from, right? So we've discounted in the main, apart from one, albums that have live and studio tracks on. There is one, and see if you can spot that as we go through. But if you can think about some of the live albums that have live and studio, you can think Fandango from ZZ Top, The Faces, Long Player, etc. They've been omitted from this list. So without further ado, let's get into our top 12. So Gav, if you can go to the next slide, and Jamo, you're on first with an absolute classic studio live album.
Going in strong.
I mean, this is madness. Firstly, I'd like to make sure everyone's all aware. Gappy in the top, he is absolutely fine. He's coming a little bit incognito there. He is underneath those cool shades of what he called them when I commented on them just now. So Gappy's there, and he's ready for hearing all about some of the most amazing records. Oh, it's ridiculous. So, Alive 2. I'm able to pick up on this one just from the front cover. It gets me excited. So, set the scene. There we go. Just 2 years after Kiss released the first Alive record, they decided they'd done 3 more studio albums, and they thought, hey, that was a successful Alive. Let's do Alive 2. They included 15 tracks from the 3 albums they'd done since Alive. And for me, when you put this record on, the explosions from the very start of the record, the explosions you hear during the first 60 seconds of Detroit Rock City sum up this whole album. The cover and the inner cover, I think someone probably just opened it up a moment ago, the inner gatefold of the stage production, it blew me away as a child. I wanted to go to that gig and see that stage show. And the highlights for me as far as the tracks of Detroit Rock City, Making Love, I Stole Your Love, Calling Dr. Love, and Love Gun. We've got a theme going on here. All the love. And for someone that despises a ballad, these are how ballads should be. They've got love in the title, but they couldn't be any more rock. The sound of production, the overall package are absolutely superb. And you even get 5 extra studio tracks, but they were recorded as live. If you look back and see how they were done.
Unlike the live album.
Apparently they were recorded as live. So absolutely brilliant record. Boys, what do you think?
Absolutely love it. It completely sums up my early days of getting into rock and the fantasy of it all, you know, staring at those photos and trying to imagine the kind of lifestyles and stuff that they had. And the music was brilliant. Like you say, the stage show was amazing. To me, it wasn't something I could see. It was the other side of the world and in another place and time. You know, it was just a fantasy that me and my friends used to listen to. And hi, Neil. So no, this is one of my favorite ever live albums. And what we'll say on a lot of these is that we were so young and impressionable when we first, you know, it could even be our brothers or our parents' music as well, because we were so young when we first came across this. So yeah, this means a lot to me. And just to show you from another pod, I've got the one where they printed the wrong song titles on the back. You got Hooligan, which never made it onto the actual album. It's a bit of a rarity there. Which I'm happy
worth a bit of money, that one, Gav, isn't it?
Yeah, worth a little bit.
Brilliant album. Gaps, any views on the live 2?
Shock Me is my favourite song off this album. The Ace song is just brilliant. Yeah. The guitars are superb in it. The guitar sound is brilliant. And also Calling Dr. Love. Yeah, as Jam has already said. And Christine 16 with the questionable lyrics, you'd say, from a point in time that we are now. But there you go.
Yeah.
I agree with all of the above. King of the Nighttime World, Love that tune. It sounds great on this too. Christine 16 as well. Gaps. I was lucky enough to see Kiss, and they did the sound check, and Paul Stanley was doing a bit of a quip around. We used to have the song called Christine 16, but now it's Christine 60, which at least they can laugh at themselves.
But she would be now, wouldn't she?
Exactly, which I thought was, to be fair, was quite funny. But yeah, a super live. If you've not heard it, you need to check out. It's great fun. So, Jam, over to you for the next one.
Yeah, so you notice these records are just ridiculously good. We mentioned virtually every track. So Thin Lizzy, Live and Dangerous. This is probably the greatest live album perhaps of all time, not just the 70s. Tell us down below if you need to mention that. The cover, as with so many of these records, is just iconic. Phil's the coolest man in the whole world ever. And it's got the wonderful gatefold. Good. It's got the wonderful gatefold, providing the live picks. Again, we love a gatefold. The highlights for me for this record are every single bloody song. I'm not going to list anything off because the whole album is just out of this world. And the advantage that this one had was the superb live video footage that had been shot at the Rainbow Theatre in London. And thankfully, it was shown on UK TV and recorded by Little Me onto home video. That helped me, bring this to life in front of my very eyes. And every day for me, it was almost like it was a rock Groundhog Day for me. As I watched this, I'd get in from school and I'd put Thin Lizzy live on the video. The band with the Ultimate Four: Brian Downey, Scott Gorham, Brian Robertson, and Phil Lynott on vocals. And everything about this, I can't put across this enough. Everything about this is immense. Phil Lynott, I think if you watch any of our other pods, for me, he's the ultimate poet, ultimate frontman, performer, rock star. And the fact that cover just really sums this up. This made sure that he had legendary status forever.
Right, old pants he's got on there.
Yeah. Thoughts, boys?
Well, filmed on the Bad Reputation tour and recorded on the Bad Reputation tour 1977, I believe. So correct me if I'm wrong. Let us know in the comments. The packaging is amazing, right? So again, if you can pick yourself one of these up in a record fair, you can get them for a pretty reasonable price, as Gav's showing, beautifully packaged with within a kind of covers as well.
So many photos, yeah.
Yeah, it's the old Vertigo spaceship label on the inner label on the vinyl. It's a super album from start to finish. And I think what you hear most importantly, I think whilst there are overdubs, of course, on this record, what you hear is the crowd seems so engaged in
There's still a few mistakes. I leave a few mistakes in. So
okay. So look, great albums, great songs. This is them at their height, in my opinion. They never got better than this. So
it's got two of my top three favourite Thin Lizzy songs. The only one that isn't on there, which is in my top three, is Fool's Gold, which is off Johnny the Fox. But it's got Suicide and Massacre, which are two of the greatest songs ever written.
Yeah, and the great songs just keep coming, don't they? If you look at the first three sides, it just never lets up, and even when there's a dreaded ballad, it's one of the best ballads ever written. And one of the best performances of one of the best ballads ever written with that.
Yes, correct.
Side.
Yeah.
So, you just think, wow, I wish I could have been there. I mean, this is a time machine gig for me.
Yeah.
Wish I'd been there.
And the importance and that you mentioning that a ballad, and I know it's just one of the ultimate songs. It's one of the greatest songs that there is, and it's a ballad. And this has got such feeling. They really do. It comes across so well.
But compared, this is another theme that we'll touch on going through the pod. But compare that version to the album version, which is pretty ropey, in my opinion. With the other guy singing as well.
Yeah. No, exactly.
It just doesn't. It's not. It's a 5 out of 10, and this becomes an 11 out of 10.
Wow,
but I think this is true of a lot of these records. Is they're better than the studio versions because rock bands can play live.
And it's not just a typical ballad, though, is it? The way it changes tempo halfway through, and still enough with it's great.
That is Thin Lizzy Live and Dangerous.
You're interested? There was a record store release day a couple of years ago or a year ago, Live and Dangerous at Hammersmith Odeon, 1976, not 77. And again, this is beautifully packaged.
Yeah, that's on here. That's on here as well.
Yeah, definitely worth a listen for sure. Yeah. So very good. Okay, Jam, next one.
Next one, Quo Live, great live album name. I love that. Now I listened to this an awful lot as a kid. It's got a Glasgow audience. They sound superb. Francis and the Boys, they're raw rock and roll. I struggle to. I don't think you'd find overdubs in this because it's all in there. It's raw as anything. Just as Quo when you see them live. It's just brilliant. The highlights for me: Big Fat Mama, the 8-minute epic 4,500 times.
Yeah.
It was a weird thing to have for me. The songs and the music I was listening to at the time, you didn't really have that length of song. Just Take Me and Little Lady, brilliant. It cemented Quo as live legends, not just a boogie band, but actual live legends, and then future Monsters of Rock headliners. And when you think of it like that, you think this is what it was built on. And not forgetting, it opened the way for them. They went on to become the openers for the biggest gig ever in Live Aid. And this set them up so well, and just it got onto vinyl, just what they're like when you go to a night at a Quo gig, which was immense.
A Big Fat Mama's my favourite Status Quo track of all time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean you can't beat it. Roll Over Lay Down's on there. Backwater, they're my three standouts from this album. I didn't really like 4,500 times or the earlier stuff that's on this. So it's only 3 tracks on this album that stand out for me.
Thanks, Jam. Again, another brilliant album. So if you've not heard this one, please check it out. So Gaps, let's go to your first album.
Yeah, here it is. Rainbow on Stage. Not only was it the first live album I ever bought, it was the first album I ever bought when I was 13 years old in Scorpions record and tape exchange in Wickham, which sadly no longer exists. It's got one of the greatest introductions to a live album I've ever heard, with the Dorothy stuff from Wizard of Oz, and then going straight into a song which they'd not actually recorded before, Kill the King, which was on an album which came out a year after this, and 2 of the players on this aren't even on the album, Jimmy Bain and Tony Carey. Yeah, it's just fantastic from start to finish. It's got one of the best vocal performances you'll ever hear from Ronnie James Dio. And again, what we've talked about before, it's I'm fairly sure there are no overdubs on this at all, because there's lots and lots of little mistakes in this. It's got Cozy Powell on it. And if you look on the back of this album, and I've never seen it before, but it's actually got rainbow equipment on the back, and it gives you all the sizes of his drums and everything he plays, and it's just ridiculous. And the best snare drum sound I've ever heard in my entire life. There's a couple of I mean, you've got a Deep Purple track on there, and you've got Catch the Rainbow, which takes up 2 sides of the entire record. So there's only about 8 songs on this album, and it's a double. But yeah, I mean, when I bought it as a 13-year-old, I'd already heard Rising before, but I'd never bought it. Yeah, it just absolutely blew me away. Some of Richie's classical playing on this is immense. It's just great.
It's very much in the vein of a Deep Purple live album, isn't it? It's just press record and off you go. It's, no messing around.
And you've got Tony. Yeah, Tony's playing a Hammond organ as well. So I mean, yeah, just look at that. Look at that stage of it. The rainbows. It's just it's brilliant. Brilliant cover.
And if any of your kids have never heard or seen Richie Blackmore, you need to check him out. I know he's not necessarily been prolific over the last 20 years, I would say, but what a guitar player he is, and also drummer Cozy Powell, of course. So
yeah,
brilliant. Okay, cool. Next one, Gaps.
Yeah, well, this is my favourite live album of all time. Scorpions, Tokyo Tapes, recorded in 1978 with Udi John Roth, just before they went really totally metal with Love Drive the year after, when he'd left. And he takes lead vocals on a couple of tracks on this. It's got 2 of my favourite Scorpion songs of all time, Fly to the Rainbow, and it's one of the greatest live tracks I've ever heard in my entire life. And the intro to side 3, which I've never heard before on a live album, where it actually fades in with the crowd coming up and clapping, and it just goes absolutely mental. He's a woman, she's a man. What a great song that is. And again, one of the greatest vocal performances from Klaus Meine that you'll ever hear in your entire life. The bloke still got it. We saw him. When did we see? Was it this year we saw him, or was it last year?
Yeah, it was this year.
Yeah, this year. And he's still got it. The man is immense. He's just fantastic. And this, again, we've talked about whether there's a few overdubs on this that you can hear, but Uli John Ross playing on this is phenomenal, and totally different guitar player to most people we've ever come across before. And yeah, brilliant. Absolutely love it.
Brilliant. Okay, fantastic.
And just this has played a massive part in my life as a kid. It was in our house from the minute it was released. He's a Woman, She's a Man. I lived with, and it was mad. It was a mad song to get your head around. It's like, hey, what's this all about? And it was so great. The whole of that song was great. And Top of the Bill, that was immense. And I think that was on the Monsters of Rock special album that came out when they played Monsters of Rock. I think Top of the Bill was on the tape of that I had. And that was a great one. But yeah, really, really good album. It's a great way that it finished off that part of the Scorpions and their career up there, for them to then step into this next world where they were going to become absolute barnstorming heavyweights of the metal world across the world. This is almost the line. It's like, right, this is it. This is brilliant. This is great. Now we're going to do this next thing, and that's going to be even bigger. And you never would have believed that would be the case then. But no, really great, really strong record.
And the artwork on some of these records really bring out the live show as well. So you can see Rudy there.
Yeah, but you look at Rudy on the front there. He's just, and he can still do that now.
Yeah.
What is he, 70?
Yes, amazing. Yeah. Look at the heels there. The wedges. Come on.
The difference in that to when they then conquer the world and everything else. It's amazing. Brilliant.
Fantastic. Right, Gaps. Drum roll for the next one.
Yeah, we come on to a little ditty that is probably in Dill's top 10 albums of all time, I would imagine. I mean, it's Bon Scott at his best. I mean, what can you say about this album? It starts off with Riff Raff. What a great way to start a show, Riff Raff. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Let's get serious here. It's ridiculous. Hell ain't a bad place to be. Bad Boy Boogie. What we were talking about earlier, when they play the Jack, and the lyrics are totally different to the album version, and there's only actually one verse before it goes into an Angus fest. Let There Be Rock as well, and we all saw Let There Be Rock this year in Dublin, and 8 minutes. This is 15 minutes shorter than the version we saw in Dublin, which was 23 minutes long. Thank you. Well, Brian needed a rest, I think. But and Problem Child, one of my favourite AC/DC songs. Rock and Roll Damnation, another one of my favourite songs. Yeah, this album is tip top.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, if you don't mind me just chipping in with the bit of the AC/DC here, Gav and I have got the merch sheet for this one. So I mean, the cover and the back is absolutely fantastic. And look, when you're a young teenager learning your trade with music, I mean, oh my, this is amazing.
It must be one of the earliest merch sheets ever.
It probably is, actually.
1978.
Yeah, I think it's
early one, yeah.
If you wanted a T-shirt, that'd cost you £3 with 30p package and postage. You'll be glad to know on the tour programme, and they did play Oxford as well, by the way, on this. And my uncle went to see him. You'll be glad to know. There's also the merch. I'll just show you a couple of those pictures from the programme if you're interested. Again, this is very rare, but there's the merch piece as well. A couple of brilliant pictures of Bon. Oh, it's just amazing, isn't it? Look at that. I mean, this is a bit of. Do you know, when I retire, I might open a little AC/DC museum if anyone fancies coming in for 10p to look at all this nonsense. But
I mean,
if you want blood, you've got it. I'm not going to go through the album in its entirety. The one recording from this album that really probably stands out to all of us is, of course, Whole Lot of Rosie.
Whole Lot of Rosie with the
when we were growing up, that was always the one we were waiting for at the school disco to be played. We'd all be on the floor banging our heads going, Angus, Angus. And of course, they did release a 12-inch with the album, which was a special limited edition, Whole Lot of Rosie. It is probably, and I don't always say this, probably one of the greatest live tracks ever recorded on vinyl. Amazing. And of course, Glasgow Apollo.
And it was always, when they did the sound best songs and Kerrang best songs, randomly that was always up there, wasn't it? With Stairway to Heaven and when you listen to it as a song, it's not a brilliant song. It's just the way, it's just how good it is on that album and how the energy in it, I guess.
But just for me, the cover, and again, I was a child. I was 8 and 9. This is in the house, and that freaked me out. The cover freaked me out, and the back especially, because he's just laying there. And I was 9. I was 8, 9 years of age. That's weird. I wasn't allowed to watch Scanners on video or anything. You know what I mean? I couldn't watch any horror films. Yet that was in my house.
Scanners. That's a reference, isn't it?
So that's a movie that I remember not being allowed to watch, and I watched it, and it scared the shit out of me. But this was so brilliant, and that cover is amazing, especially like the focus that it's not in.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah,
I love it, but it's like wow, it just showed action. That and this isn't a negative, but why the heck isn't it a double live album?
There's so many songs that they must have left off.
That's not well. It's kind of negative, but I think
very often they didn't want to include loads from the album before.
Yeah,
that, if it was that tour, then they did most of the songs from that last album, and they didn't want to repeat it.
That's the only thing. And if that's a negative comment on an album, then that's a good one. And you just want more. If you want if you want more, I'd have loved that to be a double.
Now, though, with them going back and doing these extended, expanded versions, obviously that doesn't matter now, because it just doesn't matter. You want the whole show, but at the time, with the whole Kiss Alive 2, for example. The reason there isn't a fourth side of Live is they didn't want to repeat a Live 1.
Yeah,
and then of course with the title went on to On Highway to Hell, one of the greatest songs they ever recorded.
Yeah, so you got another song ahead, an album title for the next album.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
So
amazing effort. If you haven't got this, so you haven't heard it, you need to check it out.
It's one you need to own,
and it sounds great still. It doesn't sound muddy or echoey, or it sounds really in your face. Great drum sound as well.
Porcupine cut, I believe, as well. So again, that might be something you want to research too. Okay, good. I think it's me next. So Rolling Stones, get your yayas out. And I don't know if you noticed, for the eagle-eyed view, on Charlie's T-shirt there, Charlie Watts, the drummer, he's got some boobs on his T-shirt. So if you look in detail, that was pre-Gaza.
Drummer holding 2 guitars.
I think Gaza got the idea from that, and of course on Decca as well. Look, the Rolling Stones were at the height of their fame at this point. They played the Altamont Speedway, which was well documented. A couple, there'd been murders, babies. It was a free concert in the States. There was a whole thing going on with Vietnam, etc. I think this album really captures the time in terms of what they were doing, the rock and roll. It's brilliant, absolutely superb.
Was Mick Taylor on this album? Or?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, Kick Off a Jumping Jack Flash. And look, he was instrumental in this, right? Because Let It Bleed as well was the album leading up to this Beggars Banquet. There's some amazing tunes on this. I mean, they had sort of like 4 or 5 album run, which were, in my opinion, probably unsurpassed when you think of some of those records. Sticky Fingers after this album, absolutely amazing. You've got Exile on Main Street, which was after this album. So those 4 albums, which is sandwiched in between, are seminal in my view. So this was released in 1970. That's why it's 70's album. I'm not sure if some of it was recorded in 1969. Let us know in the comments.
Out of this list.
Yeah, I think the majority of it was at Madison Square Garden. They'd been incessantly touring the States and doing stuff in the States, and they were absolutely massive. I mean, this is a band we should really be proud of coming from England, because they've just been massive for so long. I was lucky enough to go and see them on their 60th anniversary a couple of years ago in Hyde Park, and they're still absolutely brilliant, even without Charlie. Like I said, a couple of standouts, Midnight Rambler, Jumping Jack Flash that it kicks off with. But as a child, I used to wake up, my dad used to have this on all the time. Sunday morning, bang, it would go on first thing, waking the whole house up. Next door must have loved it. Brilliant. And as a 9, 8, 10-year-old listening to this, you're just like, oh, this live music sounds great. I love it. And of course, it stayed with me my whole life. So I know the guys aren't as familiar with this album as I am, but this was a big part of my life growing up. I've loved the Stones ever since. And
has it got Honky Tonk Woman on it?
It has, yes. And
that's one of my favourite.
There's quite a few I recognised when I listened to it this week, and I didn't expect it because it was so early. I didn't expect to know as many songs as I did.
And that, I guess that's the point. I think these were real trailblazers, and I think when we think back to many of the bands that we like and are into now, these massively led the way. This is great, and
very strange cover though with a donkey.
I love it. Again, if you're 9, 10, you think this is great. You think, what's that donkey?
Donkey with a guitar.
And where I lived, we used to have an airfield next to us. So I always used to imagine that was the airfield.
Airfield, isn't it?
Photos of the airfield, which is maybe a bit bizarre, but maybe that's me. This is Kiss Alive, and here we are. Gav will have a copy of that too. Look at that picture, Madison Square.
This picture on the back, man.
Oh, it's great, isn't it? I
The
love
hottest band in the world.
They found these guys, haven't they? And they've still got the banner.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. I mean, for me, this was always my favourite of the two. I mean, to start with Juice and Strutter, and they've got to choose Hotter Than Hell. They're just brilliant. Just feels like that's the essence of Kiss. Again, a couple of other absolute classics: "Come On and Love Me," "Rock Bottom," "Cold Gin," and on "Rock and Roll All Night." But the "Let Me Go Rock and Roll," I just love that, and it's just what a way to finish the show. And Gav and I, back in the day, we used to play Cold Gin, Merchants of Grief. I don't know if you remember, but
we also played in Bolt as well.
Played it in Bolt as well.
What an album! But lucky enough to see this set in full in 2008 at Download. So if you're at that, please let us know what you thought of that too. So
Firehouse is one of my favourite Kiss songs, and yeah, it's fantastic on this record. And Cold Gin and Rock and Roll All Night. They're my three standouts off this record.
For me,
I was going to say, so iconic that Ghost copied that font, didn't they, on the back of their live album? But this was the saved Kiss basically, and saved the record label as well, because they were ploughing money into Kiss and they were not selling. And then suddenly they thought, oh, we'll just record a few shows and bung it out, and it sold millions. So yeah,
I didn't know that, Gav. So they were flopping at the time, were they? I didn't realise that.
yeah, the record label was really struggling up until that.
Wow.
70s was great for live albums. There was obviously we know that because of this show, but double live albums was the thing, and people really loved live albums, whereas they don't anymore, do they? So and I think it's basically because this was Kiss in their essence. Kiss live is, you don't want to hear them in a sanitized studio, doing with poor production. You want the whole live experience, and all these songs are great songs. So to have them in this setting worked for them and saved their asses.
But I do find it interesting, the difference between having two double live albums 2 years apart. I was always in Alive too, but this Alive always felt to me like it was just that little bit more rock and roll, because it was that couple of years earlier. It was still that bit more rock and roll.
It definitely is. Yeah, you're right.
And then you've got the step up where they've actually changed, because I love the album, Love Gun the album, and Destroyer, which I didn't enjoy the production of Destroyer. You got the songs and that then actually onto Alive 2, produced in a way that I liked. The live rawness, and it just felt so. They'd stepped up to me as if they were then a metal band.
Yeah, Alive 2 is way heavier.
I Stole Your Love and some of the metal in it's just both great, really great albums. And I think that to me is one of the reasons why the Kiss legacy and the way Kiss took over the world. It's because you had all those options. So you got the rock and roll, more rock and roll side that, like, your Dylan. I know a lot of people that prefer Deuce, Strutter, Cold Gin.
Yeah.
Then you've got the people like me that are like, you're making Love Gun, I Stole Your Love. What a band to have both of that. How lucky to have both of those live albums.
Those few years in between, like you say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I've never really thought about that, Jam, to be honest.
Only 2 years, it's mental.
Yeah,
it's a good call. Okay, cool. The next album is another one which another band that we don't necessarily always talk about on our pods, but these were real trailblazers from a hard, certainly a classic rock perspective. The Who, they are regarded as a mod band, I think mainly because of Quadrophenia and how they looked in the 60s, but let's just remind you, so did Status Quo look like that in the 60s. And they did change in the 70s when they played, they did change, when they played the big festivals, etc. You couldn't get any more metal than how Roger Daltrey looked at the time. Now, The Who Live at Leeds was released post Tommy. Tommy was the original rock opera. And some of the bands that we've been talking about, particularly Kiss, were massively influenced by The Who. So this is a first press of the album. I grew up with this. My dad used to play it all the time. A couple of things I'm going to show you. There were 12 inserts with the original, so this was a bit of a forerunner maybe to some of the Kiss stuff, and particularly Iron Maiden and many others. But there were 12 inserts with various things. There's a picture of the band there. But there were these like random things like delivery note, Crystal Palace fireworks as an example. You've got, and I love this stuff. It's so British. It's fantastic. Before proceedings under the County Courts Act, this one notice, and you can read some of this stuff through. I can't remember what this one is, but anyway, look, you get the invoices and various other bits and pieces. The one that really sort of stands out is, if you weren't aware, there's My Generation lyrics as well, which is great. But if you didn't know, they were actually they were turned down by EMI Records, and there's the to you, EMI, we made it, right? So that's interesting. And for those of you that go to record fairs and are looking for a first press, there are 12 inserts, but there's a poster that comes with the inserts as part of the 12. And this one, of course, is the live at the Marquee. The later versions were live at Leeds. So if you're looking for an original first press, obviously you're always looking for the A1, B1 on the run out, but that's a really good telling. Hold of that. A couple of things about the record, and I've talked a lot about this one just really quickly. The Mose Allison first track, Young Man Blues, absolutely amazing. Jam and I saw the Foo Fighters playing that 15 years ago at Wembley Arena at the NME Music Awards, which was incredible. There's also a 15-minute version of My Generation with a number of the tunes from Tommy, and it's just amazing if you haven't heard it. The crowd's really quiet, really respectful throughout, as they were in this 1970, until you get to Magic Bus and they're going nuts. Lots of bits in between where Keith Moon's piping up in the background. Brilliant album, in my opinion. One of the greatest live albums ever made. Not overdubbed either, unlike many of the others we've talked about tonight. Okay, cool. Well, that's the Who Live at Leeds. Next one.
Oh, over to me. So, yeah, save the best three till last, obviously. All 1979, which I didn't realise when we kind of shared these out between us. But this means a hell of a lot to me, this album. Me and my brother were mad on Priest. Obviously, he's 2 years older than me, so he got into them first and then kind of influenced it down to me. But look at that cover. If you ever want a rock cover or metal cover, that's what you want to see. And cunningly hiding young Les Binks, who had already kind of departed at this stage. But on the back, same again. That could equally be the album cover. Staged, obviously, but fantastic. So the thing with Unleashed in the East is, for me, every song is the best version of the song. They've had a bunch of albums before this, but never quite captured it with the same energy and the same speed. A lot of these songs are a lot faster live than they are on the record.
Exciter, for example.
Exciter's much faster. I mean, you don't get a better opening track than that.
No, it's
kicks
bloody decent.
And we're talking 78, 79 when this was recorded, and that's some double bass drumming that's unusual for that era. It's not the first, but certainly groundbreaking in terms of how much double bass drumming there was and how good the drumming was on the album. But everything sounds brilliant. You've got the stereo separation of each guitarist, which we always love. You've got brilliant drumming. And Rob's voice, for me, I know that if you don't know, he had a sore throat in Tokyo. So they took the masters, came back, and he re-recorded it all live in one take, but over the top of what it was. So the vocals aren't the original show vocals, but they are done in a I think he said he did it in his lounge or something. But they are fantastic. They sound like guitars, and there's some echo effects and some other harmony things that he does on his voice. It's just, I've never heard anything like it, and you still don't hear vocalists that have his capability. And
his range has always been immense. Range is awesome.
So for me, it's the best versions of the songs. Les Binks needs a shout out. They should have looked after him. He should have stayed.
Damn right.
So it's their management's fault there. And a great sleeve, front and back, absolutely loved it. The version that came out originally, you know, talking about the original presses, had a merch sheet with some very 70s ladies.
Oh, love a 70s lady.
I nearly said hubba hubba then.
Yeah, and some strange
just
man. And then you get a free 7-inch as well. So with 3 extra tracks, Beyond the Realms of Death live, which is brilliant.
I'm not seeing it.
Should have been on the album though, shouldn't it? Should
Never
have been on
seen
the
it.
album.
This is another obvious double album, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And it's ripe for a box set. Sony, if you could think about doing that, I'd be very grateful. Later in the
2 words for me. Let's excuse my throat this evening because I was foolishly singing along to Green Manalishi on the way home, and in the time I couldn't quite manage to top. I'm sure I can usually hit that, but yes, I did my throat in a bit trying to follow Rob. But we famously, Gav, you don't like a cover version of anything being played in a live gig, do you?
Except these.
No, but it's famously a song that nobody ever realised was a cover version.
Except this song, because it is the greatest cover version of all time, and it's
Diamonds and Rust.
I just love it.
Which is the greatest song on this album.
Green Manalishi for me is immense, and I absolutely adore it. And Beyond the Realms of Death, I just wish that was on the record. But there you go.
Me too.
Yeah, no, it should have been.
Yeah, it would have been better than Genocide.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, they're just, if you listen to it front to back, they just keep on punching you in the face. It's just such a brilliant live album.
But Diamonds in Rust, the beginning of that with the digital delay on it is absolutely orgasmic.
And there are quite a few mistakes on this as well, which I love. You know, the band,
absolutely.
You know, and some croaks and stuff going on. It sounds live to me, and I don't care. I want them to do their best effort as an album, and if it means polishing bits and bobs, I don't care. Live, I want it to be live, but the album, I don't mind if they spruce it up a bit. That's my opinion on that. Are we done?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Next one up. I mean, this is the archetypal. They never sounded as good on record as this. You know, this epitomizes my theory of, you know, rock bands should do live albums if it means that it kind of sets a new standard. If you go back from this album and listen to a lot of the old UFO stuff, honestly, it's never as good as this. It can't be topped. It's such a brilliant lineup. The production is brilliant. The only thing I don't like about it is the cover. Never liked the cover.
No, the cover's the least.
Because I always
it's
thought
the worst cover out of the 12 we're doing. So
you know, we all had long hair, and all the band had long hair. So what's this cat on the front doing?
Do you know what? Can I just say though, when you've got this in your record collection, this is the easiest one, apart from Def Leppard, Pyromania. This is the easiest one to find from the spine.
But honestly,
that's a good thing. It is photos.
I used to look at those photos and just dream of them coming alive, you know, before YouTube, before any rock being on telly. They're so tiny, but they're so awesome. You know, and we get this for the cover. No thanks. Take it outside. Go and have a word with yourself.
But I'd like to congratulate Gav. You've really swung into the 70s feel by using the phrase, "Who's that cat?"
Cat, yeah, brilliant.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
And for the album, that's the thing with me.
What do you mean swung into the 70s? He never left the 70s.
Very true. But this record, where, as you say, a lot of the remasters of a lot of the other albums have come out, and I've bought a few of them, unfortunately, with they have live versions as well. Yeah. But you rarely find yourself. I rarely find myself digging out a studio. I know this is very bad of me. Digging out a studio UFO album from the Schenker Mogg era. Yeah, and I'll always just go to this. And I think that's why I've given this so many plays. Yeah. Whereas with other bands, I would listen to, like with Lizzy, where I'd be going a deep delve. This had everything it's pretty much had everything that I wanted in the versions that I wanted on here. And it's got a really for me, it's got a really laid back vibe. It's really cool and different to a lot of the other live albums. And you caught them at a time just right, at a time before there was any sort of there was some imploding going on.
Left, wasn't it?
Yeah, do you know what I mean? To catch them at their awesomeness, this is massive for me, this record, and I freaking love it.
And this is another thing. I don't know if you boys have got this, but it's they did a record store day with there's 2 tracks on the albums that were never live. They were recorded in the studio and then put on the live album with some backing But so these are the studio versions for the first time. So that's Mother Mary and This Kids. So it's interesting to hear them kind of out of context, but again, that doesn't really bother me. If you're going to get a better live album out of it, you know, with more diverse songs, that's okay. You know, these songs were from an earlier album, so they wouldn't have necessarily done them on this tour. So yeah, that's okay with me. But you know, cracking album, absolutely brilliant.
It was a great album. All your favourite tracks on it: Natural Thing, Doctor Doctor, Lights Out in London, and then of course the brilliant Rock Bottom, Too Hot to Handle. I mean, what more can we say? And our friend Michael Schenker,
most of Schenker's set now, isn't it?
Yeah, and our friend Michael Schenker used to live in a little village that we used to frequent quite often. But
that's true. We've got some stories. If you want to buy us a pint, we'll tell you.
Yeah, we might need to buy us more than one pint to reveal those stories. But hey ho. Anyway, next one, Gav.
Next one and final one, you'll be pleased to hear, is an all-time classic, Queen Live Killers. Now this holds a special place for me because on car journeys we had a choice of 3 things: cricket, no thanks, War of the Worlds, okay, or Queen Live Killers. So I was always there shoving the Queen Live Killers tape into the tape player on long car journeys. So, and it's lovely to hear it, force it down other people's throats, isn't it? That's a great feeling.
This is you as a Gav, just to set this is you as a child with your father playing the
exactly.
Can I just? I'm guessing Brian Johnson, not as in AC/DC, would have been on the commentary team for the
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
It might have been a close one between Brian Johnson on Test Match Special and Queen Live.
That's all right if you want to fall asleep, but anyway.
It would have been John Arlott back then. But
yeah.
So anyway, this again is this for anyone that doubts Queen and thinks that they're just, you know, studio magicians and silly songs and quirky songs. This is 4 guys on a stage rocking and proving that each one of them is an amazing musician, and the songs are amazing in a live setting. Fantastic album cover as usual, completely diverse set of songs. You know, they don't only choose the rocky songs, they choose everything they've done, but all live, you know, all with amazing harmonies and backing vocals and amazing guitar playing. Yeah, just an absolute epic, and I loved it so much that I bought the Japanese version.
Of course you did.
Which has the 2 colours, the green and the red of the actual vinyl. But yeah, this would be in my top 5 best albums, best live albums. I absolutely love it. What about you guys?
Yeah, massive for me. Again, the phrase killer, brilliant. That's the thing to perhaps name a series on a pod. Killer albums would be a good idea. The thing with this is Queen were never heavier than during this. It captured the heaviness and the randomness that I'm about to say now, that the highlights for me were Love of My Life and 39. Just goes to show those tracks are so beautifully done that you've got that and the heaviest stuff they can possibly produce. Yeah. We were doing a pod. We've done a pod recently about Queen, News of the World. Really, really good pod. Had some great feedback about that. And we were talking about We Will Rock You and the version on that album. And we were then talking about the rocky, heavy live one, which is on this album. So this has got, in my opinion, the greatest version of We Will Rock You. So give this a spin, or whatever you do nowadays. If you haven't got the record,
it's got it at the end as well.
Yeah. It's just brilliant. It's a great way to listen to that song. It's through this album, but I love this record. Brilliant.
Actually, I was going to say, with you mentioning Love of My Life, I was going to mention The Crowd, because this, I can't think of any other albums at the time where the crowd were just taking over the vocals. There's obviously Love of My Life is the obvious one.
Yeah, was this recorded at Hammersmith?
No, it's recorded all around Europe.
All right, okay.
Yeah, it's quite spliced. You can hear a couple of cuts in a couple of places. But not only Love of My Life, but Spread Your Wings.
Yeah.
The crowd, he doesn't bother singing that half the time. The crowd just sing it. And that you didn't hear that very often on live albums of the time, that the crowd just took over the lead vocal. And it was a testament to where they were going to go from there, and you know, all the chanting and the stadium rock, you know, absolutely brilliant.
And that assisted Gav, you and I, for singing when we used to sing this when we'd be at school on a break or something. We'd be singing this, we'd be doing it in the voice of the crowd. So it helped us to sound ridiculous in front of anyone that didn't worship this record. So, hilarious.
Yeah, I think a bit of it in Paris because he goes, "Merci beaucoup."
Yeah, he does.
Brilliant album.
All right, brilliant. Thanks, Gav. Thanks, guys. So that's our top 12. I hope you enjoyed that. Gaps, just a quick comment on our top 12 classics before we move into the best of the rest.
I don't think anyone could possibly say that there's any better albums than these, to be honest with you. I mean, you go with it. We'll show you them in a minute, but please say if you think any of them that we're going to show in a minute are any better than these, and we'll tell you you're wrong.
A few people.
I think some might, and you know, I think generally you could have we could do a part 2 to this. Actually,
You could do with the 12 we've got coming up to show, but yeah, let's go. Hit it.
Okay, so Gav, if you just have a quick run through the best of the rest.
So we've got Jethro Tull, Sammy Hagar, Aerosmith, Yes, Cheap Trick, another Budokan, and again Japanese again with Deep Purple, Made in Japan, later to be parodied by Iron Maiden. All of them strong contenders, I'd say, especially Aerosmith and Deep Purple.
Yeah. Also, the Sammy Hagar album's awesome as well. Check it out; it's brilliant, actually.
Yeah, I'd have said the Sammy Hagar one.
Yeah, really cheap. You can get that record fair for under £5. I reckon.
Yeah.
I'll give it a go.
Yeah.
And then the final, there's one little cheeky one in there, which is the AC/DC Live at Atlantic Studios, which was never really a commercial release. It was just a record company radio promo, was it, Dill?
Yeah, I think only 5,000 of these pressed.
Yeah, so the original one of those. I mean, it is brilliant, and we all just had to concede that it's so brilliant it had to go in, but it's not officially a live album.
No, that would have won.
One of our great friends, Borlo, would have had One More for the Road by Lynyrd Skynyrd as his top live album of all time.
And it's a good name for an album as well.
I also think that there will be quite a few people, personally, I think that will be saying, why haven't we got Rush, All the World's a Stage?
I agree. That's what I was thinking of.
So I'm expecting...
I was getting a bit scared.
I'm expecting some feedback on that, and that's cool. That's totally cool. I do have that record now, but
yeah, I've got it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, but let us know. That top 12, I think, speaks for itself. It's strong, but whether that, I think some people will be commenting on that. But there you go. That's all good.
Yeah, there will. I'm sure there will be a Rush presence in the best of the '80s live album.
Yes. Brilliant. Okay, well, that's the best of the rest. Let's go to our resident Scott Mills, who's going to give us the top 5 rundown.
Be kind.
Yeah.
Sorry. Let's
I
take us.
love the way you said it's Scott Mills.
It's going to take us to the top 5 countdown.
And not Fluff Freeman.
Okay.
Let's go to Jam, who's going to take us to the top 5 countdown.
Thank you so very much indeed. Do my best Scott Mills that I can. So here is the official top 5 killer live albums from Tales from the PowerAge for the 1970s. At number 5, it's actually shared between Judas Priest with the amazing Unleashed in the East and Queen Live Killers.
Controversial.
You wanted the best, you've got the best. It's the hottest band in the world. That's right, it's Kiss with the Live 2 at number 4.
Cool.
Doctor, please, don't you know it's UFO with Strangers in the Night at number 3 in the official top 5 killer live albums of the 1970s, according to Tales from the PowerAge. If you want AC/DC, you've got them. It's If You Want Blood from AC/DC at number 2.
Way. It's a fix.
Which surely can only mean one thing. I am so very, very proud to announce that from one of the greatest bands of all time, in my opinion, the number 1 killer live album of the 1970s, as decided by Tales from the PowerAge, is Thin Lizzy with Live and Dangerous. Back to you, Bill.
Well done. Okay, well done to Phil and the guys. Look, all of those 5 or 6, I should say, are brilliant albums. All 12 are great. But if you wanted a starter for 6, I was going to say start for 10. If you wanted to start for 6, get those records. They are absolutely fantastic live albums. So let's go on to the next slide, please, Gavin. We'll just remind everyone of what they can do. They can sub to us. So we'd love it if you sub to us on the live channel. This is when we're out and about in lots of live venues all over the place, watching super new bands and some of our old classic rock friends. And we've got lots and lots of videos on there. So please check it out. You can contact us on Facebook on Tales from the PowerAge. You can get in contact with us on Twitter on Tales from the PowerAge at TTFTPR, online at www.talesfromthepowerage.com. Or if you wanted to buy some merch, you can do that from TFT PowerAge. Cool, I found that difficult to say in this late hour of the evening. So what have we learned from the 70s live albums? Well, most of them weren't live. Wasp more live music than most of those live albums. But either way, they're great. You need to check them out. I hope you enjoyed that. Speak to you later. Bye.
Cheers, guys. See
Love
you.
you.